Welcome to Unmasking Dyslexia, a podcast about how dyslexia impacts the individual within the social world. Within each episode, we cover topics that highlight how dyslexic brain uniquely matters and impacts and brings meaning to the world around us. With the next 5 podcasts, we're going to cover a series of information around the PERMA model. Now, the PERMA model was a psychological model that was introduced by Martin Seligman, and the whole purpose of it was how to focus on increasing an individual's well-being. Now, while the PERMA model has never specifically been targeted to work with dyslexics, it is easily transferable to the demographic of dyslexia. So, in each episode, we're going to break down the PERMA model, and we're going to talk specifically how this actually impacts the dyslexic brain and how to utilize it so that we can increase our well-being. Dyslexia within research shows that we have a tremendously low levels of well-being. And while most research links this to the impacts of education, we have to realize we're not always in school. And it is within the social world and just how our brains are wired that we can actually have adverse reactions to the world around us. And this is what causes a decrease in our well-being. So the PERMA model looks at positive emotions, it looks at experiences, it looks at relationships, it looks at meaning and mattering, and it looks at your accomplishments. And when you work with this in a very, very concrete way, we can actually raise well-being. In this episode, we're going to be looking at positive emotions. Now, I want us to really start to realize that there is no good and bad with emotions. Emotions are neutral. It's our interpretations of them that create good or bad. If we take a look at emotions, we have adverse emotions that can cause dis-ease in our bodies, and we can have positive emotions. So even anger can be a positive emotion if we're using it correctly. But we're not going to dissect all the different emotions in this episode, but what we are going to talk about specifically is how to reduce overwhelm. Your dyslexic brain is wired to pick up on more visual stimuli, pick up on a more emotional cues, and see the bigger picture of what's occurring in any situation more than anyone else. You are wired to process your information differently, the world around you differently. This is not school, this is the world, this is experiences. And while these are amazing attributes that come with the dyslexic brain, what we have to realize is that they can create tremendous overwhelm for the dyslexic individual. And what happens when we get into overwhelm, a lot of times we will have overt or outbursts, things and aspects and reactions that others can see. And to be honest, it's not pleasant for the individual having them either. Now, these outbursts occur when we do not understand what we're experiencing, when we can't put them into words, and we haven't developed the skills to create positive ways to diffuse all this excess information. So that's what this podcast is going to be focusing on today, is how to learn 2 different ways to diffuse this excess information so that we can reduce our levels of overwhelm. One of these ways I want to introduce is a breath work. And I know that I talked about this really briefly in some of the previous episodes, but I want to get into it a little bit deeper. And this breath work that I want to introduce to us today is the HeartMath breath. And I encourage you to research this breath because it is scientifically viable. There is so much research out there that shows that when one person falls into coherence, which is what happens when you follow this breath work, you can actually not only influence your brain patterning, your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being, you can actually positively impact those that are around you because you become a magnet for calm. You become that vibration that can lower the tension in any situation. Just think of the control that brings, that if you just follow a specific breathing pattern, you can diffuse any situation. So for those of you who are driving, you may want to put this podcast on pause until you are in a situation that you can control. But for those of you who are just listening to this, I want to invite you to try this exercise with me. Now, you don't have to, but I invite you to try it because it is super powerful. For me, when I learned the HeartMath breath, it was a life changer. It completely changed how I process my emotions and how I show up in so many different situations. Okay, it's pretty simple. I'm going to invite you to just sit and get your feet grounded on the ground. Plant your feet on the earth. Now I'm just going to invite you to breathe as you normally do. You can have your eyes open or closed. And just breathe a little bit deeper and a little bit slower than you normally do. That's it. Really simple. Now I'm going to invite you to draw your attention to the center of your chest. This is your heart space. I'm going to get you, if you need to, you can put your hand on your chest. And I want you to, in your mind's eye, envision that all your breath is going in and out of this heart space. It's no longer going through your nose or your mouth. It's coming in through your chest, in through the heart space. Your heart is filtering your nourishing air. Your heart is filtering the air you are expelling. You're exhausting out of you. Exhaling. So I'm going to invite you just for a few. We're only going to do this for about a minute or less than. Breathe in through the heart space and have all that air come back out through the heart space. And breathe in. And breathe out. In through the center of the chest. Breathe out. Breathe in through. Breathe out. I'm going to let you have a couple of breaths all on your own, at your own pace, at your own speed. Now I invite you to come back. It is such a powerful breath. You can transform how your body is functioning in any moment within seconds. It's not one where you have to concentrate on your inhale, exhale, and have specific counts. You function to your own rhythm. When this breath occurs, and we can get into what they call coherence, our mind, our emotions, and our physical well-being function as one. And when we can unite our body and our well-being, our emotions, our spiritual, every aspect of ourselves to become whole and congruent, guess what? We have control over ourselves, the situations. We become calm. We become coherent. This alone can reduce any kind of overwhelm that we're having. I work with this breath, and I encourage you to work with this breath every day, even when you're not stressed, so that it almost becomes your natural way of breathing. Because what happens is if this becomes your natural way of just being in the world, less things impact you negatively, less things create overwhelm. And what also will happen is that you'll notice when your breath changes, and that's your first cue that you're getting stressed. Instead of waiting till you're stressed to then try and diffuse the situation, you create a way of being so that stress just doesn't enter. Which is a better way? Waiting until you have an issue to deal with it, or just becoming it so that you basically diffuse and inhibit the negativity from happening? If you want to work with this breath more, reach out to me. I am trained in supporting individuals with the HeartMath breath. And if you'd like to, definitely research it. But go to the HeartMath Institute website. Look at their specific videos, because that's where you're going to get the most accurate information. So the first thing I want to introduce about working with positive emotions is, first of all, just reducing our overwhelm. And to me, the breath work is so easy. We carry our lungs everywhere. It is something that we can do in any situation. When there is an argument or anything happening, I fall into this breath to keep myself calm, because once I keep myself calm, my working memory works better. My word recall works better. I'm able to actually monitor my own emotions. It allows me to have that space to remain aware of what's happening versus getting lost in it. And that's what happens with overwhelm. Okay, the second tool I want to introduce in positive emotions is simply labeling. And it sounds so pragmatic, so simple. Yet, as soon as we can label our emotions, we can call it what it is, it brings actually just some construct to it. It brings something that we can work with versus it being something erratic that's out of our control. We all of a sudden bring it in a little bit and we can get more curious about it. Now, even if you don't know what's happening, you don't know if you're angry, upset, you don't know what's happening, even stating I'm in overwhelm right now is powerful. Just simply by stating I'm in overwhelm. This is overwhelming to me. That alone will settle your system because you've labeled it. You've created what it is. Even if you can't come up angry, sad, overwhelm is powerful. So the next time you're starting to feel agitated, you're feeling angry and you don't know what's going on and you can feel it building up in you, just say, I'm in overwhelm and see what happens, because it is amazing. I have been using this technique for years. It also is a signal to everyone around you that something has changed inside of you. Because a lot of times, many of us are master maskers. So people don't know what's happening inside of us. And by just verbalizing what's happening inside of us, it's an invitation for people to bring understanding to our internal experiences. What's important in this podcast is for you to realize that dyslexia does not mean that you just have issues with words and language. Let's stop reducing dyslexia down to that. Dyslexia is something even more. It is a neurodiverse processing style. It means that you were built to experience the world differently from anyone else. Being dyslexic has its challenges, but it also has these amazing strengths as long as we know how to use them. And while there's aspects to being dyslexic that can create emotional challenges for you, it's up to you to learn how to work with these so that you can create healthy relationships with others, your emotions, and ultimately you get to choose how you show up in the world versus it being led by the emotions that you have. If you found this podcast was helpful, please share it with another that you think it might benefit. And if you would like to learn more about me or the work that I do, or even to work with me individually, please look in the show notes and click on my website and book your free consultation as I offer virtual coaching worldwide.